Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life.
In the beginning, there was nothing. Then zero became one.
Help!
Hello, my friend.
Who is this?
If you want to live, run.
What do you want with me?
You, my friend, will serve a great purpose. Tick tock, tick tock.
You have the same earpiece. Who are you?
Bomb number 1. Mid-bomb number 2.
You two are now partners.
What?
5 missions. You do what I say, I'll be monitoring you.
Can it be disarmed?
Let's get this over with.
I'm sorry.
Come on, man.
What the hell does he want with us?
Finish those missions. Simple as that.
What's next?
That was great.
Okay. New mission, new chapter.
Who are you two?
You're going to start a fire that will shake the order of things to come.
What a wonderful job you're doing.
You're welcome.
Everyone, you just either heard or saw the trailer for the new film Zero that is out now in theaters and out on VOD. So I'm saying go get it. Nancy and I just watched it, and it is riveting, but fast-paced, a lot of action, a little bit of blood in there. Jean-Luc is here, the director. Hello. Welcome, Jean-Luc. But it is riveting, but also very full circle moments in this film. And Nancy and I both appreciate it. I was raised in Kenya and South Africa. And what I love about this is that you show a side that I think a lot of the Western side of the world may not realize what Africa is like, or even have any kind of understanding. Was that part of making this for you? Was that part of what you wanted to share with people?
Yeah, it was part of what we wanted to show. It's part of what I want to, at least what I'm working on in Africa, which is of course we have an industry. Of course, there's a lot of masters, directors, and storytellers in Africa. But I think now it's the time to to work on our pop culture, if it makes sense. So this is the kind of movie that I would love for the Western people to see, but also the African people, and say, hey, we can do genre movies in Africa, we can do fun movies in Africa, we can do strong action, crazy action, and in the same time have something to say about it. Because at the end of the day, at least for me as a storyteller, the action or the genre itself is just a tool to tell a story, right? And to tell a story about those people in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a lot of different stories. There's a lot of different layers, but the action is pretty like high impact. But you take us through areas of Dakar that it's not the touristy side of things. And in Africa, that's people automatically expect, oh, it's something in Africa. There's lions walking down the street. You've heard that, right?
Yeah, cliche, right?
Gorillas in your backyard, tigers even. I don't know where they came from.
Sometimes we have some weird discussion with Western people sometimes before they come in Africa. Yeah. So of course it's part of why we make this movie, to show something different, Yeah.
Well, also showing the different cultures, spiritual beliefs, cultural beliefs are in there. And I love that part, but also showing the Western influence, which is actually very destructive to the continent, the mama continent. I call her the mother, Africa, right? The Western world has been pillaging that continent for years in so many different ways. And so I hope people start to look at what we're doing
Mhm.
to the resources, even. Is that part of it for you as well, as the resources of Africa going out to the world and how those resources are being extracted?
Yeah. Of course, it's part of the, how I can say that. It's part of the background of what we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
do. And it's about opening discussions, and it's about also a bad guy slash a god in the sky who is trying to set a weird kind of balance
Mm,
in his own philosophy, you know.
mm,
So it was interesting for me and for the actors who came with a leap of faith in Africa to shoot that, to show that again, the job is to show something different and also ask the people to ask themselves some questions. And the
mm.
action and the fast pace and all that, it's just a cream on the cake, you know, to have
Yeah.
fun. But then it's usually when you have fun and when you can play with a subject that you also that your brain picks up the depth of what you're trying to say, right? So that's
Yeah.
the action or the genre in general is always a good vehicle to talk about real subject in a fun way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely high paced, and you've got bomb one and bomb two, and these two guys are strapped with bombs on their chest that are
Mhm.
gonna, implode in 10 hours. And they have all these missions with this guy in the voice, that voice. That's
Yeah.
like, that voice is like, oh man, where is he? It's like
Yeah.
this following them in places that you wouldn't even think. Like he
Yeah.
knows everything. It's like that's a freaky feeling. That part of it to me is the action is like somebody knows your every move. That is a horrible feeling. And that's like a sense of somebody owning you.
Exactly. You got it. It's the God in the sky, you know, and
Yeah.
especially when it's
Ew, but it's
coupled
not a
with
nice one.
yeah. Then there's something interesting. Well, I of course I'm not gonna tell the end of the story and the end of the
Mm-mm.
film, but there was an interesting philosophical point of view at the end of the movie where you can ask yourself, okay, who won there, you know? Did they won? Did he won? You know, and is even that voice is a he or a she or a kid or whatever, because that's also
You
part
never
of
know who that voice
you never
is,
know,
really.
right? So especially today with all the AI stuff that, and we can scramble any voice and do whatever we want. So the subject was also that, which is okay, when you're trapped with somebody that knows everything about you and can do anything with you, how does it turn? You know,
Mm,
and is he that cruel when you see the end of the movie, right? When you
mm,
see what's the outcome. And the interesting thing was we shot this movie a year and a half ago, something like this, and we shot twice because we were a victim of the COVID at that time, or at least the end of the
oh,
COVID.
yeah.
Still some restrictions, so we had to shoot twice. And then when we were in post production, this not the same kind of situation with bomb straps on people and whatever, but the same kind of political outcome came in Senegal, like very very close to what we're talking
Hmm.
about in the movie. So it's interesting when you want to tell something, and again in a funny way and an entertaining way, when reality meets, you know, the the game that you think is a game at the moment when we were doing that, right? So it's a full
That is Africa, though, man.
yeah
You can't, it's so hard to explain Africa to people.
yeah it's hard to explain.
It's so
At the same
multi-layered.
time, yeah, and in the same time, I like to say, because I had some very interesting conversation. This movie went to a lot of festivals. It won some prizes here and there in a
Hmm.
lot of different countries, and it's always interesting to meet the audience in different countries and have that discussion. And what I loved the most was most of the people understood that it was not about it was not a story or a movie about being anti-American or anti-Western. It was more
Hmm.
about anti domination. And when you come with the idea of domination, how do you play with it? What's the tools and what are the anti-tools to reverse that thing, right? Or to try to reverse it. So the interesting idea here was when I was talking to the producer, who's American, and also the main actor, who's Miller. I said to him, there's an interesting parallel between most of the time when we see a terrorist or we talk about terrorists,
Mm.
usually it was Muslim people wearing bombs and doing that in Muslim countries. And now I was like, okay, if we do the inverse, if we take an American guy with a bomb straps on in a Muslim country, you know, how does it feel? How does it look like? How are the people around? feels about it, blah, 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 right? So it opened a lot of doors. And when you have a script that can open a lot of doors about the discussion, that becomes an interesting discussion to have.
Mm.
And I was very lucky and very happy to see that people today can be open to have that conversation and understand and not just feel like, oh, somebody's pointing the finger at us again and blah, blah, blah. It's more complex than that, you know?
Yes. That's what I loved about it,
At
is
the
the
end of
different
the day,
layers.
yeah, every
Mhm.
civilization, every country, that's my theory, dominated somebody at the moment, you know? So let's talk about it, you know? And today it's about, of course, Western domination, at least in this movie. Yeah.
Well, what cracked me up at the very beginning, and bomb number one, he's strapped in there and he's like freaking out.
Yeah.
And he's all, everybody's like scared of him, and the faces, you know, and I'm like, this just brought me home. Like the faces, just, I really just felt at home, you know.
Yeah.
And just even like the one shop owner with the bars and the way the shop was, I'm like, I grew up with that. So it just
Yeah, me
it
too.
made me, it just, I was like, I want to go get a Coke. I want to go get a packet of chips, you know? And I'm like, it was so it just, so there, that to me added this whole other layer for me personally. It was just like I felt like I was home. And
Yeah.
there's a weird, this sounds weird. So the one thing was, he's running around, he's freaking out, and everyone's freaking out because he's got a bomb on him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, I'm American. I'm like, shut
Yeah.
up, dude. That's like,
That
that's
was
like,
the,
that cracked me up. And I heard my mom also at the same part. I know she did the same thing,
yeah.
as, you know, I'm American. And that was her answer when she first moved to Kenya. She's
Yeah.
like, I'm American. And then she quickly learned to shut. Like, you
Yeah,
don't go
because there's
around
that
saying that.
interesting thing. Sometimes when we go in a country, we always that feeling that we're not the right, but we're the nice people, or we're
Yeah.
the protagonists. So by flagging like, hey, I'm a good guy, I'm supposed to
Yeah.
be a good guy, believe me, right? And they're like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you doing
Exactly.
this, you know? So
Because,
there's some funny, yeah, we had fun with a lot of cliches.
yeah, there was some
You
funny
know?
parts. And then the goat,
Yeah,
is so, that represents a lot of things too. To me, the goat, it's like, here
yeah,
comes the goat. And I remember being a little girl, and we lived with a Muslim family in Kenya when we first got there, and he was a writer, and he got arrested for what he was writing and everything. And
yeah.
anyway, they brought this goat, and we're like, oh, how cute. And then next thing you know, the goat, like, I was waiting for that moment to be on the plate, you know, and I quickly learned to eat goat when it's hot.
That
But
goat
the
was
goat,
yeah,
and then there's social media part, right? That,
yeah,
mm,
there's the part that you write on paper as a writer, because I wrote this one and then Who's came on me on board and we co-wrote it at the end. But there was a moment like this where it's written on paper, but then when you live it, when you're shooting it, there's whatever the goat is going to do with you. So there's a lot of moment in those moments where it's genuine what he's doing, you know, and their reaction are genuine too. So yeah, that's the funny thing about this movie. That was a very fun movie to shoot. You
I
know,
bet.
hard but very fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of action, a lot of action. So how, like, when you film that kind of thing with so much action, right? Do you have like a gazillion cameras going at once? I mean, because you're moving through so much,
Yeah.
you know.
Um, so there's different type of directors. There's the Ridley Scotts out there who love to shoot with 8 cameras, 9 cameras, whatever. I'm more the team of the one camera team, which is I love
Wow.
to design my shots. And because the problem with multiple cameras is that, yeah, you capture everything that you want in every angle, but in the same time, that's my theory, you're losing a lot in terms of reality, meaning like the brain of the audience
Mhm.
know when you're cutting. Of course, the job of the editor is to make it go fluent and not noticeable, but at the end of the day, the brain knows, right? Which
Mhm.
is why, for example, you have TV series like Adolescence, who is making so much noise right now because they succeed in capturing such great performance, but at the same time, they're never cutting. So you have
Mhm.
everything in there, and it's authentic and it feels authentic. And so I'm team director one camera, and this one was shot on one
Wow.
camera. Yeah.
Wow. You wouldn't think
Yeah,
that though. But
yeah,
it is up close personal, but it moves.
yeah,
I think it's the speed of how it moves, and the music.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, can I just tell you, the
yeah,
music is
yeah.
amazing. Are you going to do like a soundtrack? Like, come on.
Yeah, I hope so. So we have the incredibly talented James BKS. He has been making some noise for a long time now, for 5, 10 years now in Africa. He's back in Africa. He lives in France. He's the son of
Mm,
Manu Dibango, who is one of the
okay.
biggest musician in Africa. And then what I wanted for this movie, again, in that sense of doing something new and breaking the cliches and all that, was I don't want to go full African music like we intend what African music is. And in the same time, I don't want to go in the blockbusters
Mhm.
way, which is very Hollywoodian, very loud. And as I was doing my research with Hoos Miller, the producer, who is also, because I'm a musician at the very beginning. That was my
Oh,
first job
okay. Yeah.
before movies. So that's also why there is this kind of rhythm in my movies in general. I'm very picky with
Oh,
that.
makes sense.
And I discovered with Who's that completely forgotten Zamrock vibe, which is like rock and roll from Zambia from the 60s to the 70s.
Hmm.
So there's that sound of, wait, it sounds like the Rolling Stones somewhere, but in the same time,
Yes, yes,
very
that one
African.
song, I was like, that was it.
Yeah.
I remember
Right?
he was sitting down outside. And I went, that's like, where was he? He was like sitting down and like reading a paper, like he was sitting outside in this little area. And I'm like, that's Rolling Stones, man, but it's not.
But it's not, right? Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's we tried to find. I always try to do that,
that's
like
so
do
funny.
my second one, which is a Western. I try to find the right balance between spaghetti Western and with African flute, who are coming from West Africa
Hmm.
and all that. So I'm always trying to, yeah, find the new stuff, find the new recipe to again try to build an African pop culture, or at least to
I love it.
our
It's
part of
almost
African in
Portuguese.
pop culture. Yeah.
It's
So
almost Portuguese, the music to me.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a mixed movie at the end of the day. It's an American movie and a Senegalese movie in the same time. So you
I
want
love it.
the identity to feel like that, right? So
Hmm.
I guess that's also why the movie is working so well outside of Africa. And I can't wait for African people to see it also, because we're dealing with a lot of problems on the continent with distribution and all that. So
Oh,
fighting to for this movie to yeah, to come in Africa and to show to people that we can do something different. Yeah.
yeah. When we lived there, everything had to come through England or
Yeah.
Japan,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
for music. That's where
Yeah.
it came through. So I didn't know a lot of American stuff actually until I got
Yeah.
here. And
It's
people
a
looked at me like, "Where have you been?" I'm like, "Africa." But
yeah,
so is that the distribution for film that way too? Like having to,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna lie, it's quite difficult. I'm also a producer, right? On my
Hmm.
second film, not on this one, but on my second film, I was a producer, co-producer, and it's a fight to have our movies distributed. Of course, there are platforms, but you always want to go more than that or offer more to people. So especially with the other one, so Saloon before that, and Zero.
Hmm.
Zero is definitely a movie that you want to watch on the big screen. I did the experience, and all the time I'm like,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
for the big screen, man.
Could you imagine the IMAX? Like
Right? So,
serious. That's pretty
so
crazy. And
yeah,
it's
we're
and
fighting
then
to
you have
that.
the ocean and it's like this peaceful, beautiful ocean. And then
Yeah,
at the same
these
time,
shots
like,
are once there's whatever. Of course, I'm like everybody. I like to watch movies on my computer when I'm traveling, or sometimes watch some trailers on my phone and all that. But at the end of the day, let's not lie to ourselves. Like
mm,
a shot that is like 10 times wider than you, it's gonna make you a different effect than a shot that you're watching on your
yeah.
computer, right? So especially on this one, which is about those two characters and some very intimate moments, some intimacy about those guys. It's also about the big picture,
Hmm.
about where they are and how they're so little in a problem that is so big, or in a
Mm,
subject that is wider than themselves, right?
mm.
So the form itself makes sense if you go see that in a theater. So I'm very happy that this movie has the chance to be in theater in US, at a moment in Asia, probably at a moment in Africa and in Europe, I hope. But the movie was done for that, yeah, with the small amount of budget that we had anyway.
Oh, congratulations, though. I mean, you've got to be proud of this. And I think for Africa, um, you know, Africa's underrated when it comes to the arts, to me. Some of the best art, the best music, some of the best theater and
Look right now, yeah.
talent is
Yeah.
is in Africa. So I think you're really right on,
Mm.
getting the spotlight wherever you film in Africa, right?
Yeah.
Senegal is some place that people really don't know. They just hear it on the news, and it's usually with an uprising,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but it's true.
And I'm not even born. I'm not Senegalese. I'm Congolese. I'm born in Congo. I grew up in Congo. So I've been
Yeah.
shooting beat everywhere. I've been shooting in Morocco. I've been shooting
Oh,
in Senegal. I have my production now there. And next, there's gonna be a next in Ivory Coast also. And I'm
oh,
always
wow.
trying to find the places that we don't see enough, right?
Yeah, Uganda would be one too.
Yeah,
People
right.
and
Uganda,
Tanzania, like,
Ghana. But of course, there's a lot of movies in Ghana and in a lot of movies
hmm
in Nigeria and all that. But it's always interesting to have a new high in countries that you don't know because you see
hmm
stuff that other people don't see, right?
South
So
Africa is westernized, it's super.
yeah, but then, for example, there was that underrated movie that I think it was 9 years ago now, 8 years ago, Five Fingers from Marseille.
Oh,
It was shot in South Africa, and the first time that I saw the trailer, I was like, whoa, finally we're seeing something different.
mm,
The same thing for what's happening. Of course, everybody now knows Korean movies because of Squid Games, because of all those things. But 20 years ago, that's exactly the effect that I have when I discovered Korean movies, right?
see,
So, so as much as art has to evolve, the scenery also has to evolve. So it's a constant discussion because I'm also working in Hollywood, so it's a constant discussion with them
mm,
to make them understand that, hey, you know what? uh, it's different to shoot in Africa, but guess what? It's also less expensive. It's also less complicated. It's also I won't
fun.
say more beautiful because every country is beautiful in its own way, but
hmm
the new standard that you can bring on the screen. And guess what? We have the youngest population on the world. So guess what? In 5 years, they're gonna be your new consumers.
I
So
love
what are we
you're
doing?
being visionary. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
And you're so right. And gets people to understand Senegal and look it up on a map. Start to think, where
exactly.
is it? And other
Mhm.
than hearing it on the news, and start to
Yeah,
understand the culture and the people, and the music helps, I think, hugely. I think
yeah,
that gets people, because it's a background, it's a soundtrack, it's like the
yeah.
rhythm of a place. We
Mhm.
travel full time. We're 100% nomadic, and everywhere we go, like, we'll stop and, like, okay, we got to play this music for this place because
Yeah,
this is
right.
what's. And so is when you do movies, it's my first thing, but this was like, Ry Cooder did an album very similar to the sound. And
Mhm.
I got to go look it up again because now I know. I'm like, who was in there now? But I
Yeah,
hope you keep doing that for Africa because there's
thank
so
you.
many places. I remember when I was a little girl, Shaka Zulu came out in the 80s. It was a TV, not the
That's kind of
movie,
that
the
I grew up. Yeah, the
series.
TV series, right? Yeah, yeah,
Did
yeah.
you see that? That
Of
was
course, I grew up
incredible
with it.
for the
Yeah,
80s, right?
yeah. Well,
Henry
my question:
Sele
did
was
we do
amazing.
better since?
Yeah, I know, right? But as a kid,
Right?
I thought that
So
told a story that needed to be told
yeah,
because of the complexities of that country. It needed
yeah,
to be told, and it showed just brilliance. It's what got me into history, was that TV series and actually traveling to where he was and Mshlanga rocks and everything. And it's,
yeah.
yeah, man. Ooh, you got to go to Rwanda then too.
Yeah, you know what? That's very interesting. I was talking about that yesterday with a producer because I have a lot of people watching the movie also and saying, "Oh, we can do that in Africa now." Okay, so it's also, of course, you make movies for the audience, but you also make movies for the industry, meaning like, hey, we can do this or we can do that. And guess what? It's again what I was saying, less expensive, but also more rich for everybody because you're learning
Mm,
something new. And at the end of the day, because I'm also part of the audience, because I also watch movies, uh, and probably I'm not supposed to say that, but cinema tickets are effing expensive. So if I'm
mm-hmm,
gonna have to want you to come to see this movie, at least I have to show you something different. Travel with me. You see what I mean?
mm,
Instead of paying a
I
ticket,
love that.
it's like a
Well,
1,000.
well, you look at what has happened with Atlanta
Yeah,
compared to Hollywood, and
yeah,
Louisiana took over New Mexico
yeah.
over Hollywood. Not, poo-pooing Hollywood, but it's, diversity is everything in the arts. That's what it's supposed to do.
Diversity always wins, even in genes.
Uh,
We all know that now.
oh,
So, right, even genetics says it. So it always wins. And then it's about uh being truthful with what you're talking about.
yeah, I love that. Well, thank
And
you so much for what you do as a storyteller. I
you're
love,
welcome. So
I
thank
love that. I'm going to go. I have to go watch your other movie now, because
you.
now
Yeah,
I'm
Saloon.
behind. I have to
Yeah,
watch
it's a
Saloon now.
different
So
animal. Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to watch that. And just I loved it. Nancy as well. She says hi. She loves that too.
Thank
She
you.
was like, I just heard her and I just heard bleep bleep, and I'm like, that's my mama. I'm like, what is she saying over
Well,
there? But those who
that's
know her
working for
know she
all
won't
ages.
do that.
That's great. Hmm.
Yeah, that's lovely. It's lovely, but very fast paced. And I didn't think I'd be so into action as much, but
Yeah.
I could tell it was going somewhere. And I'm like, oh, I know it's coming. It's coming. So the end is it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
full
Quite
circle.
hard. Yeah, I will see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Difficult to not sell it, but people
Yeah.
will. Yeah.
Everybody go watch it. That's the best thing. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Lisa. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.